Pop it. Obligatory dog shot and dog food in the background. Anyway, so this video is about... Why is it zoomed in? I guess it isn't zoomed in. I just made a little trip to my local video game store known as The Exchange. It's a chain in Ohio. I think they might be in Pennsylvania as well. I don't know. Anyway, made a little trip. This did not come from there. This is my my new Super Nintendo flash cart that I've been using. Look at this burn mark on this blanket. That was from a soldering iron. Whoops. Anyway, I got this shitty dollar game because out of their dollar bin, it was the nicest. Like, it's a little discolored here. I'm hoping this can clean off. But it was the nicest cartridge shell out of all their dollar bin games. And I plan to transplant this into this cartridge shell because when this thing is sitting in my Super Nintendo, it just looks like shit. For one, it's shaped so it fits in the Super Famicom and PAL Super Nintendo slots, and it just doesn't look right because the edges of these are more square. They're not exactly square, but yeah. So I just hate the way it looks. It's black and it just looks ugly, and it's shaped wrong. It just looks ugly in my Super Nintendo. So I'm gonna put it in this case. I'm thinking about printing a new sticker. Yeah. And then right, so I got these things apart, and like I was saying with these, once you get the screws out, it just slots in at the top, so you just open and pull back. So I haven't looked up this game. It looks like, yep, it's got a battery save, SHVC 1A1M-11. So hypothetically, you could burn a new ROM and solder it in and have a different game with a battery save. The type that'll work for it. Anyway, so I took this thing apart. Come out of there. What are you stuck? There we go. Okay. So this thing has two batteries on the inside. The Super UFO Pro 8. This is for the save battery. I mean, this is a save battery for your SRAM game saves. And then in the manual for this thing, I'm probably blocking this left microphone. Sorry if your left ear was lonely. The manual for this thing says it has a nickel metal hydride battery, and I was really sad to see that in the manual, but then when I took it apart, this is totally a lithium polymer battery. There's the protection circuit right there, so I'm kind of happy that's there. So anyway, I'm looking, this is to the front of the system. That's the front or the back? Okay, that's the back of the cartridge. So there's a few things that I need to do. As you can see, this uses more pins than... I'm looking through the camera. As you can see, the actual game doesn't use all the pins. Boy, they look like they don't quite line up, do they? I guess they do. So on the plastic here, I just have to level this down. I'll just probably go all the way to the edge and level it all down to this height. What's the other half of this freaking shell? That's interesting. Huh, maybe, yeah, I should only have to do one side since this is already, I see how it's supposed to go together. Okay, anyway. Okay, this is the front, and there is enough room, it looks like. Sorry if there's been cuts in this video. There's enough room to fit this huge battery right in here, it looks like. And, well, actually, will it? Can't see from this angle. I don't know. I'll figure it out. If I have to cut a hole in the front of the cartridge, I will. But yeah, I need to remove this plastic here. I need to remove this, it's not a screw post, but this post. And I need to remove the plastic here. I don't think I'll need to, yeah, I don't think I'll need to go into that section because on the front of this, actually I might. I hope not. See this is, I'm getting confused about what's the front, what's the back. So this goes this way. No, those chips sit up pretty high. Anyway, I'll figure it out. I'll start removing plastic with my Dremel or X-Acto knife or whatever I decide to use. And, like I said, I'm not actually worried about using this. And to get to the SD card, I could cut a slot. It depends on how it fits. I might cut a slot. I'm not really worried about it. If I do cut a slot, then I can actually put the screws back in and put it back together. I might do that. I haven't decided. But if I don't feel like cutting a slot, I mean, like I said, I could just hold it together, like, ooh, okay, it's got to go on this side first. Doing this with one hand and doing it through the camera is dumb. Sorry again if there's cuts. And then this, like I said, you just stick them in the slots. And I totally screwed that up because I can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Alright, so I'm not worried if when this is in there, if I have to hold it together when I take it out of the Super Nintendo or put it back in, because it's just going to sit in there most of the time. And this being loose doesn't matter. Once it's held together and put in the system, it's just going to sit there. It's not going to come apart. There's no room in there for it to come apart. So if I decide not to make an SD card slot, I'll just do that. I'll just leave the screws out. When I pull it out, I'll just leave it like that, and then I can take it apart, take the SD card out. Don't have to fuck with the screws. Or if the screws are the right size, I might put Phillips screws in here. The screws from this thing. If they're the right size, I'll put the screws from that in there. That way, I don't know. We'll see. You'll see whatever I come up with. So yeah, that's that for now. Okay, we're back with the modifications. Like I said, I needed to remove that fake screw post. It's just a post that normally would go through the middle of the board. As had structural integrity. I had to cut the plastic out that would normally hold the side of the end here. I didn't use a Dremel. I just used my side cutters and those. I could use a Dremel to flatten it out, but it's not like anyone's ever going to see the inside of this but me. And it doesn't have to be super flat because the way the cartridge rests in here, it's not going to be touching the remnants that are here. Just a little bit of there. So yeah, let's show you how it sits. So I can. My inclination is to look through the. There you go. I think you can see. I'm looking off to the side. Okay, yeah. But yeah, it sits in there. It does slide back and forth, and that's gonna be a problem. I'm gonna have to do something about that. I might have to put a screw post or some sort of stopper down through here, like glue a piece of like a chopstick, like a piece of chopstick, glue that to the plastic of the board down below here, glue it to the back here, and that'll keep it from moving back and forth. Or I could put something down here on this corner as well, probably both. There is a way I could have avoided that problem, and that would have been not flattening out this all the way to the edge. If I had kept the right amount of material here that was sticking up higher, it would have kept the cartridge centered properly if I kept the amount of material on both sides that I. But and whatever, I should have measured. I should have done that, but I didn't think of that before I cut. I just did it really quickly. And then here's the front. Well, I'm sorry. I've had my heater running next to me. Sorry about that background noise. So I had to cut the plastic down over here and over here, and this is the other side of that screw post, that fake screw post or whatever. I had to chop the top of that off. Now here's the interesting part. On this thing, this battery, it's on like a thermal pad. You can't see it, but I don't know why it's on a thermal pad. It could be like on the ground plane, connected to a bare ground plane underneath here. I could have pulled it off, but I didn't need to. Basically, this was leaning and leaning that way a little bit more, and it kept bumping into this hump here, right here, and so I basically squished it that way, and now it's sitting perfectly. It's still on its heat pad, and before it was kind of leaning and it was a few millimeters further lower, but now it sits exactly in this slot. Now I could smooth out this dot, this circle here. It's an indentation that you don't feel on the other side, so it's just. Or do you feel it? Yeah, there it is. There's a divot there. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there. See, a little bit of a divot. I could easily flatten this out because you won't see it through the label, and if I put a new label on, it'll still cover it. So if I flatten that out, I don't think I'll need to because this is kind of squishy. I don't know if you can see, but it is pretty squishy. I'm just putting. Well, let's see. Let's temporarily shove it together for a second. If I can get it in the right spot. See, now it's not sitting correctly. There we go. What is it was sitting perfectly earlier. Maybe it is sitting on that. Maybe I will have to Dremel that out. The only reason I haven't used the Dremel today is I didn't get to this part of the video until after it was dark, and my neighbor downstairs is a sound Nazi. So, yeah, look at the way it tilts. It tilts that way and this way and that way. Yeah, it's definitely sitting directly on this round thing. But as it is, it fits in here. I can close the cartridge perfectly fine. So, actually, I probably don't have to get rid of that round thing. It's actually sitting on it just fine. It's not. There's not much play this way, just a tiny bit. So it's not actually pushing against the battery like I thought it was. Okay, but it does slide that way. Like it just. I don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to get a better angle so you can see that the cartridge kind of falls backwards inside a bit. So I might have to do that fake screw post thing, put a bit of a what would you call it? What I can't. I said it earlier and I still can't think of the word. A piece of a chopstick through that screw post, or through that the screw hole. What am I saying? Through this hole here that you can't see there. And then, other than that, to keep the cartridge exactly where it needs to be, that's it. So yeah, that's all I need to do. I'll figure that out. I just need to glue something in there, and then that would probably hold it better than I. The force of trying to go into the cartridge slot might push it. And if it's just something glued in, that might not work. I might have to put a screw through. Well, I'll do it through the back instead. And then have you'd have to. I gotta think about this, but I'll figure something out. I could mark it properly where it needs to go and drill a hole straight through the front and the back, and have like a piece of wood that goes through the whole cartridge that holds it exactly where it needs to be. That way it can't move. Otherwise, if I just stick a piece of wood and glue it to the bottom here, or even epoxy it, it could still wiggle or break off. So that drilling a hole thing and doing it that way might work better, to hold it in place better. But I don't know if I want holes in the whole point of this is to make the cartridge look better when it's sitting in my Super Nintendo. Maybe I'll just drill through on one side. That should be enough to hold it in place. Just in the back, because I'm not going to be seeing the back of it when it's sitting, being played. New, far simpler plan now. So I got into my acrylic scraps, and what I'm going to do is just cut to size a square of acrylic that'll sit down there, and down here that is the correct width to stop. Okay, focus please, there's not a lot of light in here. The correct width to keep it from moving up and down and side to side on both sides. I might even put a piece up here too to keep this from being pushed that way even more. So that's the new plan. That way I don't have to drill any holes in this thing, and from the outside it'll look like a normal-ass cartridge. So yeah. Okay, here's what I came up with for this. It's real dumb and simple. There's a piece of acrylic on the bottom that's just super glued. I used some Loctite, whatever. And then on top of it is glued the actual piece that's doing the duty, the work. It just needed to be at the right height. Same with this side. The pieces are stupidly shaped. I didn't, again, it's pretty late now, and so I couldn't use my Dremel to do any of this. And my acrylic scoring tool that you would take it. It's a lovely tool. It's so stupid simple, but works so well to cut straight edges. Like this edge here at the top, I think. Yeah, that straight edge. Maybe that one. I don't remember. I think that I cut. And that one. You just put something flat against the side so you have something to guide, and then you just drag the tool and score it like 1, 2, 3, at least 3 times I usually do, and then it'll just snap. It's a lovely tool, but I don't know where that is. Plus I'm working with such small pieces. I really should have just done it with my Dremel. And my dog is playing with my mouse that I caught. I caught a mouse. My building has mice. I caught one, and it's now it's a prisoner now. It's a new pet, sort of. Anyway, just pops in there. It can't really move side to side. Just maybe a millimeter, if that. And if you play around with your official cartridges, you can tell even they can move about that much. And up and down, it can't move. It can't move. But side to side, there's a tiny bit of play. So let's sorry, there's a jug of water, or a bottle of water here. That's what you're seeing there, if you're curious what the hell that is. So we just stick our front on, if I can get this damn thing on. Go in the hole, please. Thank you. Why will you not shut? What is the problem? I figured out what it is. It's just these damn wires. So if I squish it down and hold the case together, it's together enough that I can put the screws in. So I'm just going to throw the screws in real quick, and we'll try this thing out. I don't see why it wouldn't work, but let's go ahead and do that. Gross. Composite. Gross. So yeah. Zoom out. That's that. Put the screws back in so I don't lose them. Basically, I should make a disclaimer before I finish this video. That some of my new friends, or acquaintances, whatever you want to call them, would be appalled if I didn't make this disclaimer. The Super UFO Pro 8 does not do proper level shifting, and it... my dog's trying to go after the mouse again. And it tries to draw the wrong amount of voltage, out of the chips of your system, and it will eventually, over time, kill your system, probably. It might not be for several years, maybe several decades, who knows, but it could be much sooner. So you really shouldn't depend on these if you value your system. Now, if you're someone with a ton of money, well, if you were someone with a ton of money, you would have the SD to SNES and not this. But if you're someone with a ton of money that can afford to buy like 20 consoles, 20 copies of the same console, or get every revision of the Super Nintendo motherboard and have multiples and all that kind of stuff, you probably don't care about that. But for the sake of hardware preservation, it should be noted that this thing, wow, it's really heavy now. This thing will eventually hurt your system. So yeah, just thought you should know. Anyway, that's it for this video. It ended up being a lot longer than I planned for it to be, but that's pretty standard procedure, pretty standard way things go with my channel. So that's that. Goodbye.